So you're going through a divorce, you're facing a mediation. What do? I'm Karen Covey. I'm a divorce coach and a recovering lawyer, mediator, arbitrator, and collaborative divorce professional. And in this video, we're going to talk about what steps you need to take to prepare for divorce mediation. And before we even start talking about that, I hope you understand that preparation is the key to success. If you walk into a divorce mediation without understanding what the rules are, how this is going to go, what you want, what your spouse wants, or what is going to happen in the mediation process, you're not likely to do very well. And that's true whether you settle your divorce case in the mediation or whether you don't. And that may seem surprising, but here's the deal. You can settle, but if you walk out of the mediation and you made a settlement that's horrible, have you really achieved the purpose you want to achieve? The answer is probably not. So here are 5 things that you need to do to prepare for divorce mediation. Number 1, you have to know the rules. You have to understand, how is this mediation going to be conducted? Is it going to be in person or is it going to be on Zoom? Is your lawyer going to be there with you and your spouse's lawyer going to be there with your spouse? Or are you just doing the mediation with you, your spouse, and the mediator? All of those make a difference. What are you going to talk about in this particular mediation session? Are you doing the type of mediation where you have a series of mediation sessions, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours each, and then you just keep having more sessions until everything is resolved? Or are you doing one marathon session that starts at 9 in the morning and goes until 5 o'clock at night or until whenever you settle, right? What are the rules of this mediation? How is it going to be conducted? And the reason that that's important to know is you've got to prepare yourself psychologically for what's going to happen. And it also determines your strategy, right? If your lawyer is sitting there with you, then knowing what the law is, knowing your rights and responsibilities, which, by the way, is step 2 in preparing, yeah, you'll still have to do that, but your lawyer will be there with you to take up the slack, to step in, to say things for you when you're not sure what to say or what to do. If your lawyer's not there, obviously that's not going to happen, but there are pros and cons to having your lawyer there or not there, right? So knowing what the rules are of this mediation and how it's going to be conducted is critically important to developing your strategy and getting a successful result at the end. So that's step 1, know the rules. Number 2, understand your rights and responsibilities. And this is the place where so many people go wrong, right? They think that if they're going to mediate their divorce, they don't need a lawyer. They don't need a lawyer until after the mediation and after they've made their agreement. And then their thinking goes, they're just going to take the agreement to the lawyer and have the lawyer write up the paperwork. Or maybe not use a lawyer at all in the places where the mediator, some states allow a mediator to write up the paperwork. Great, they'll just do that, right? Except that trying to negotiate a final divorce settlement without understanding what your rights and responsibilities are is like going there with both hands handcuffed together. It's really, really hard to do, and it's a place where you can make some huge mistakes. That's why you've got to talk to your lawyer first. You've got to know, what is the law going to require of you for child support, for parenting time, for decision-making for your kids, otherwise known as custody? What is going to be required in terms of a financial settlement, and what do you have a right to? Now, if you understand your rights, if you understand your responsibilities, that doesn't mean that you can't do something else. For example, you may be the spouse who is looking for support, and you are going to pay support. And so you know that in your state, support will be approximately X, or you think that support will be approximately X. So you go to the mediation, you negotiate for X, you take the settlement agreement to a lawyer, and the lawyer looks and goes, what did you just do? You're paying double of what you should have been paying, or you're only receiving half of what you should have been receiving. That's a problem, because at that point, you're likely to go, oh, I didn't know that. Now you want to go to your spouse and change the agreement, and your spouse says, oh, no. We had an agreement. And then the whole thing blows up. That's not the place you want to be in. It is so much smarter to understand what your rights and responsibilities are on the front end. And then if you choose to pay more than you need to, because that's what you want to do to get the divorce over, or that's what you think you need to do for your kids or for whatever reason, great, fine, no problem. But you did it with knowledge. You had informed consent, not blind naivety, right? And the same thing is true on the other direction. If you want to take less than you're entitled to because you think that you can make it up some other way, that's fine. But you have to understand your rights and responsibilities before you walk in the door. So step number one is understand the process. Step number two is understand your rights and responsibilities. Step number three, know the facts. Now, I know this is a part that scares a lot of people, right? But here's the deal. You've got to understand your numbers. If you're negotiating anything financial, you have to understand where your assets are, where your liabilities are, what the numbers are, what's your cash flow, what's your income, what are your expenses. You have to know those, and you have to know not only what the exact number is, but what it means, right? If you're trying to negotiate, if you've got a house and a retirement account, the equity you have in a house is not the same as money that's in a retirement account that hasn't been taxed yet. And if you have a lot of equity in your house and profit in your house, then that's also going to be taxed, but at a different rate. So these things can be a little bit complicated, but knowing your numbers before you walk in the door is going to help you from making mistakes while you're negotiating. The same is true with your kids. It's not enough to just go in there and say, I know I want custody, or I want 50-50 parenting time. Well, that's great. What does that look like? Does 50-50 mean 1 week with you, 1 week with your spouse? Or does it mean, some other kind of schedule, a 3-2-2, or, a different kind of configuration? There's so many ways to do it. You have to know what your facts are and what the pieces of your settlement are that you can play with. So that's step number three. Step number four, prepare your negotiation strategy. And yes, you need a strategy. Now, there's a lot more to developing a negotiation strategy than what I can possibly talk about in one short video. However, if you go to my website, KarenCovey.com, there's an article on there on the website about preparing for mediation, and it talks about your negotiation strategy. And the high points of what you need to know are, number one, what do you want? Right? And that sounds simple, but you'd be amazed at how many people aren't sure what they want, or aren't sure that what they want is really achievable or is the best thing for them and their family. So step number one, know what you want. Step number two, know what your spouse wants, because that will tell you what you can negotiate, what pieces you can negotiate with. So those are the kinds of things that you have to identify in advance. And if you know your spouse well, and you probably do, you'll know what is likely to persuade him or her. What would he or she give up in order to get whatever it is that your spouse wants, right? So that's an important piece of preparing, is going through all that and getting your strategy straight in your head. And rule number 5 is to walk in with the right mindset. Attitude is everything, right? If you walk into that mediation going, oh, this is never going to work, guess what? It's probably not going to work. But if you go in there with the mindset of, I am going to do my best, I'm going to really try, and I'm willing to compromise. I'm willing to give things up. I understand I'm not going to get everything I want, but I also know my bottom line. Like, there are certain things, everybody has deal breakers. And you got to know, walking in the door, what are your deal breakers? What's your walk away point? What is the point at which you say, you know what? If that's what you insist on getting, I'm sorry, we're done. We're going to go to trial. Doesn't mean that you will go to trial in the end, because that's probably a ways down the line. But the point is, you know what you won't agree to. And so by knowing that going in, you can say, okay, I can negotiate all these other pieces, and I'm going to give it the best try that I can. I'm going in with an open mind, and we'll see where this goes. That's the kind of mindset that gives you the greatest chance of success. So to recap, if you are facing mediation, if you are going to it, the most important thing that you can do is to get yourself prepared. That means you have to know the rules. You have to know your facts, what's involved in your case. You have to understand your rights and responsibilities. You have to have a negotiating strategy laid out, and you have to go into this with the right mindset. If you do those 5 things, then you're going to give yourself the best chance for success and for actually ending up where you want at the end of the mediation, instead of wherever you end up. I hope you found these tips helpful. If you do, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe to the video channel, and I'll see you again next time.